What if you could walk up to anyone on the street, a trucker, a protester, even someone who hates your guts, and get them to open up completely? That is exactly what independent journalist Andrew Callaghan has mastered. In this raw, unfiltered conversation with Vice founder Shane Smith, Andrew reveals the tactics, stories, and wild lessons from years of traveling through America's most intense and bizarre subcultures. From hitchhiking with strangers to losing his hit show All Gas No Brakes in a brutal contract battle, to uncovering political illusions most media avoids, there are 10 takeaways here that will make you see journalism and human nature in a whole new way. Let's break them down, starting with the skill to get anyone to tell you everything. Takeaway 1, the skill that makes anyone talk. Andrew has a gift for getting strangers to share their deepest thoughts, even when cameras are rolling. His biggest tactic is to act just a little less informed than he really is. For example, if he is talking to someone who believes in a wild conspiracy, instead of jumping in with facts or debate, he might ask simple, open questions like, "What do you mean by that?" or "How does that work?" This makes the person feel like the expert. And when people feel like the expert, they talk more. He also uses silence as a weapon. When someone finishes a sentence, most interviewers rush to the next question. Andrew just nods and waits. That pause makes people uncomfortable, and often they fill it with even more revealing details. Think of it like fishing. Sometimes you just keep still and let the other person bite. In one example, a man started by complaining about a local issue. Then, after a long pause, admitted to committing a crime years earlier. Andrew did not provoke or push. The silence and his non-threatening presence drew it out naturally. This combination of curiosity, patience, and letting the other person feel in control is why he can talk to armed militias, partygoers, or political extremists and get real answers instead of guarded statements. The foundation for these skills was built long before he was famous, which leads us to where it all began. Takeaway 2. Early life shaped his curiosity. Andrew's love for meeting strangers began with his grandmother, who was a world traveler and worked in different countries. She took him on spontaneous trips when he was a child, sometimes with no plan beyond "Where do you want to go?" If 8-year-old Andrew wanted to see Baltimore because of its aquarium, she made it happen. In second grade, she helped him start a school newspaper, collecting stories, poems, and cartoons from classmates. This showed him that you could take voices from all around you and put them into one story for others to read. Later, in high school, a teacher gave him permission to skip class if it meant interviewing people and writing about them. These early experiences taught him to approach strangers, ask questions, and listen without fear, skills that would become the backbone of his career. With curiosity now hardwired into him, Andrew was ready for a crash course in real-world storytelling. That came through hitchhiking. Takeaway 3. Hitchhiking became a foundation. Hitchhiking across America forced Andrew into situations where reading people quickly was a matter of safety. In a truck stop, you might meet a driver who is friendly and bored, or you might end up with someone dangerous. He learned to pick up small signals, how a person looked at him, the tone in their voice, and decide whether to stay or walk away. He carried a notebook and wrote down his encounters, which later inspired the name for All Gas No Brakes. These travels exposed him to people whose realities were shaped by isolated communities and limited information. He saw how stories and rumors could become truth in tight-knit groups. That understanding helped him later. When interviewing politically divided Americans, he knew they were not just repeating talking points, but living inside a completely different information world. By the time he returned from these trips, Andrew was ready to turn raw encounters into a show. But his style was different from anything on TV. We're about to dive into the most exciting part of this video. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up below and share this video in your WhatsApp groups. It really helps us keep making great content. Don't forget to leave a comment and hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 4. Style and influences. Andrew's interviewing style is partly inspired by British journalist Louis Theroux, who also uses a calm, curious approach that makes people drop their guard. Instead of challenging someone with, "That's wrong," Andrew might ask, "When did you start thinking that?" This keeps the person talking instead of shutting down. He also learned from Vice's immersive method, where the journalist is part of the story instead of an invisible observer. Whether it was partying with strangers or standing in the middle of a protest, Andrew would adapt to the environment rather than staying stiff and professional. This approach means that sometimes the most extreme people he interviews actually welcome him back a second time because they feel heard instead of attacked. That ability to stay in the room, no matter how intense it gets, is rare in journalism. Once you understand his style, the field stories become even more fascinating. Takeaway 5. Memorable field stories. Some of Andrew's encounters sound like scenes from a movie. In one case, while working with Vice in the town of Deadwood, he got drunk and began spray painting "Vice News was here" on a historic building as a way to get them removed from a tense situation. Before he even finished the letter V, the sheriff slammed him against the wall and arrested him. On Bourbon Street in New Orleans, he filmed drunken confessions from tourists. Some were funny, but others were disturbing, including people admitting to serious crimes. He once had a trucker take him to a converted barn filled with adult video booths, then try to proposition him. Instead of reacting aggressively, Andrew diffused the situation and was driven to the next truck stop without further trouble. These moments show how being calm, curious, and quick thinking can turn potentially dangerous situations into unforgettable stories. They also show why both political sides end up trusting him enough to speak. Takeaway 6. Media and political illusions. From years of talking to people across the political spectrum, Andrew has seen how much of politics is theater. Both major parties are funded by the same wealthy backers, and voting districts are shaped to keep power balanced between them. The result is a country split almost exactly down the middle, city against countryside. He also noticed that people often adopt an entire set of party beliefs instead of picking issues individually. For example, someone who supports gun rights will often also oppose abortion, even if the two topics are unrelated. And while some political divides feel life or death for certain groups, at the top, both parties still protect the same overall system. Understanding this illusion helps explain why Andrew can speak to activists from either side without losing credibility. He treats them as people, not just as labels. This ability carried into the launch of his most famous project. Takeaway 7. Building All Gas, No Brakes. All Gas, No Brakes started as a roving interview show filmed from an RV, documenting everything from flat Earth conventions to riot scenes. It exploded in popularity during the pandemic as people stuck at home shared his clips across social media. The show's charm came from his straight-faced presence in chaotic situations, letting people speak for themselves. But behind the scenes, Andrew was locked into a contract that paid him far less than the value he was bringing in. That contract would soon cause the biggest setback of his career. Takeaway 8. Losing and regaining control. When Andrew asked for half of all revenue from All Gas, No Brakes, the production company fired him instead. At the time, he was making $45,000 a year, while the brand was earning far more from views and merchandise. Fans learned the details through a leaked story in the New York Times and followed him to his new project, Channel 5. Eventually, he bought back the rights to All Gas, No Brakes for $100,000, planning to use it as a side project while Channel 5 took on more political and international stories. This fight taught him that if you do not own your work, you can lose it overnight. We're about to hit the final takeaways from this video. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up below and share this video in your WhatsApp groups. It really helps us keep making great content. Don't forget to leave a comment and hit subscribe for more. Now, let's continue with the video. Takeaway 9. Growing Channel 5. Channel 5 became more than a solo project. Andrew opened an office in Mexico City to connect with stories across Latin America and began sending other reporters to events. Shane Smith advised him to avoid outside investors who could try to control the creative direction and to keep the team small and self-funded. Andrew's challenge was to grow the reach of Channel 5 without losing the raw style that made it popular. The bigger the operation became, the more important it was to keep finding strong characters for stories. Takeaway 10. Characters and Controversy. In his HBO documentary, This Place Rules, one standout was Kelly J. Patriot, a man he met at a rally who became the central figure of the film. By following Kelly in his daily life, Andrew created a documentary that felt both absurd and revealing. He believes that memorable characters are the backbone of a great documentary because they keep audiences watching even if the topic is unfamiliar. But strong characters can also bring legal trouble. Andrew is still fighting a $500,000 lawsuit from a man named Bill Joyner, who appears in the story. For him, the risk is worth it, because a real human face tells the story better than any statistic or headline. Andrew Callaghan's journey shows that independent journalism is not just about finding stories, it is about making people feel safe enough to share them. Whether he is speaking to a militia member, a drunken tourist, or a political activist, the same principles apply. Curiosity, patience, and respect open more doors than aggression ever could. So here is the question to leave you with. If you could get anyone to tell you everything, who would you talk to first? And what would you ask? Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.